Welcome to the Generous Benefits Podcast, where we help employers create meaningful, people-first benefits that make a real impact. I'm your host, Amanda Brummitt. I'm joined today by Tom DeLiegro of Vero Advising. Tom often says it's not what your broker is telling you that you need to worry about. It's what your broker isn't telling you. So today we dive into all that entails. Hey, Tom, thanks for being here today.
Hey, Amanda, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I had to ask permission if we could do this episode since you and Brett are technically competitors, I think, even though
If
you
you
work
want to
together.
call us that. I mean, I like to say I don't have any competition, but I guess Brett's as close as one can be.
Brett would actually probably say you don't either.
No, all good.
Well, for those of our listeners that don't already know you, give us just the 60-second version. Who's Tom? Who's Vero Advising?
Who's Tom? I'm just a dude, just a humble observer of the industry, and I'm in it because I hate it. And so I started my career, Blue Cross Blue Shield, South Carolina, then went to work for a health system, and I just have the ick. So I hung a shingle to protect people from the ick, and I was in Italy after college. And I was outside the Rome Colosseum, and there was an old nun, old nun, and she took money out of my wallet to pay for something. I forget what it was. And she came up behind me and aggressively grabbed my hand and said, "Put it down. Don't let people see you have money, because everybody around will try to rob you."
Yeah.
So who is Tom? I like to think I'm that old nun for employers in the healthcare space. Like, grab your money, stick it back in your wallet, and don't let anybody know you have it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And, I didn't know, Tom, that you'd worked in the hospital side until we were preparing for this show, which coming from hospital administration all the time, I'll be like, you brokers, y'all just think you know everything about hospitals. So now I actually know you do. So you're going to be the person that I'm going to call to back me up and be like, Tom, please explain this to them.
Yeah. Good old revenue cycle management.
Oh,
yeah.
Such joy-giving work.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then, so you own a brokerage. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So learning what I learned, the health insurance carrier and the health system, I kind of knew where all the potholes were and pitfalls. And hey, are we in the trust tree? Like, we can be open and honest here.
Yeah.
I quickly learned that nobody gives a crap about the employer. They take the employer for granted that A, you're going to pay premium.
Yep.
B, your employees are going to have insurance to therefore then go to the health system and be ripped off by the health system and their predatory pricing. So I just couldn't live in it anymore. And it quickly became apparent to me that nobody cares about the employer. And so I said, I'm uniquely qualified, I think, to go out and speak truth to power and try to protect people. It was rough. I mean, people didn't want to know. They, thought everything was done in their best interests, and, just try to spread that word that no, you need to be very cynical and question everything, from everything you're told, everything you're sold, everything you're buying, even to the point where you go and get care. You have to question everything.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. So you are well known in the industry for your quote on, it isn't what your broker is telling you, it's what your broker isn't telling you that you need to worry about. What are the origins of that?
Well, that came from, when I was, like we just talked about, when I was at the health system. I'll give you examples here in a second. But when I started being a broker, if that's what you want to call me, I needed like a catchphrase. Like, what am I doing that's different? So one of my best lifelong friends, the kid who would pull my pants down as an elementary school student on the playground and trip me into icy cold water while playing two-hand touch football, he's always had a knack for he's one of the smartest kids or guys now that I know. And so despite those rough initial meetings with him, we stayed lifelong friends. And I said, Steve, give me what you got. Like, if you were me, what would you say? He goes, well, I lived in San Diego, and there was the bail bondsman who had a tagline: it's better to know me and not need me than need me and not know me. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, how can I position that to fit what I'm doing? And that's how I came up with, it's not what your broker's telling you that it hurts you. It's what your broker's not telling you which it hurts you.
You had no idea how true it was back then, did
No
you?
idea. No idea. And so then I started connecting the dots. And when I was at the health system, and you know this, like we would have these quarterly meetings, and it's called the payer report card, payer performance report.
Yeah.
And the CFO would want, what are we getting from carrier A, carrier B, carrier C, so on, quarterly. It'd be hundreds of millions of dollars from the top carrier, low hundreds of millions from the second, tens of millions from the third, so on and so on. So he'd always ask me, what are we getting in cash receipts last quarter? Maybe a few $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got bold enough over my time, as time passed, and I said, Brett, why do you care? Like you have 9 figures. Why do you care what's cash? And he goes, Tom, I don't need 38 people in the billing department to collect cash. And that's when the light went off. So that was my first foray into, man, like, why are we even paying this? Aside from we all have our multitude, and they're becoming more popular. If you notice on social media, people saying like, why am I paying so much when if I just left my insurance card in my wallet, then I'd get a better deal on pharmaceuticals, care, surgeries, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that kind of originated from, that experience and piggybacking on, that tagline. And then when I went out and competed in the marketplace, I kept noticing that brokers just kept promoting insurance-based programs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, how do you sell an insurance plan that's going to charge 3 or 4 times what somebody's going to pay cash for? Like,
Right.
I couldn't conceptualize how you live with yourself, sleep at night, knowing that somebody on a plan that you marketed, implemented, and promoted is paying that for something that really costs this if you didn't have that product. So that's where like the heart-led mission that we're on here. And that's really the basis around, it's what they're not telling you that's hurting you. What they're not telling you is the real truth. And that's what we founded here is based off of. From our name to everything, it's based on truth. Like if you screw up, just say, I screwed up, and tell the truth. Tell the truth that insurance in large part is kind of a scam. Right? I mean, not for all instances, but for the large part, it kind of is.
Yeah. Forced into it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can make a case for a very limited population where it actually makes sense, and it does make sense. But for the large portion of the population, you have to get a price, find a willing seller, and find the best way to pay for it with a third-party entity, in that case being the employer. So that's really what we try to impart, is the truth of that.
Right, right. And while we're here to talk about what brokers don't tell you, I would be remiss if I didn't point out hospitals are also just playing that same game that consumers are, right?
Yeah,
like it's not like they
100%.
love the game either.
Yeah, and they're all looking for a way out. I mean, everybody's looking for a way to, a DPC as an example, and we've seen big health systems try to get in the DPC space. And, I give them all the credit for making the attempt. It's just not part of their business model. So even them, by adopting this DPC moniker, in what they're doing is they're leaning into the fact that, man, what we're doing isn't working. We need to get into what is, and DPC is an example of what is.
Yeah, totally agree. And I love DPC. Although I don't think hospitals could ever do it right, because DPC and bureaucracy don't really work together.
Yeah, that's a point of contention. Co-opting the phrase to piggyback on what's growing in popularity in the market, but that's a whole other story.
For sure. Okay, well, let's start just in super plain language. How do brokers get paid, and where do the hidden incentives or the things they're not telling you live?
Well, let's talk about piggybacking the DPC relationship. I had a DPC last night at an enrollment meeting say, we're effective because we don't get paid by the insurance companies. We get paid by you, the client. And I'm like, man, that really resonates, because that's how a broker gets paid. And you work for who pays you, and brokers get paid by the insurance company. They're paid to be distribution channels for the insurance carriers. And we can all agree that the insurance plans often don't act in the best interest of the premium paying member. So again, how is a broker, in large part, how are they serving, other than by being a conduit for a system that we all agree is failing?
Right.
So I kind of piggybacked on that, and it's true on the physician side, and it's true on the broker side. Now everybody's on this self-funded kick, and I'm a huge fan, as I know you are, of self-funding your benefits. and there are transparency laws. And I know Brett and myself were being transparent before it was cool and mandated.
Right.
But even there, I mean, there's still a lot of assumed income streams that brokers have that I don't think in large part feel are necessary to divulge to the client. And so, yeah, I think it's hard, especially if you're at a bigger shop, and there are certainly the people at those bigger houses are certainly well intentioned. But I think again, it's the business model similar to the house systems. Everybody trying to get out, they just don't know how, and the economic model doesn't allow them to branch out and do things that some independent guys might be able to do because they have a huge apparatus that they need to support with existing revenue streams that are built into their model.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so I think everybody knows you guys kind of like a realtor. You get a percent of whatever they're paying. What are these other revenue streams you're talking about?
Oh man, I've seen revenue streams that are per script fees. I had a pharmacy report that outlined. So a client asked, "Hey, I want my itemized pharmacy spend. I don't want just the aggregate $6,000 this month. I want to know what I spent it for." And on that report, there was a RX fee and a broker fee. And in our case, it was zero. But I'm looking at it going, damn, brokers are getting paid on the per script and on the pharmacy? Like, ick. Everybody's infamous percentage of savings, right? Now, if you're going to have a percentage of savings, I get and I see the model. But good Lord, have a cap on that thing, because if somebody goes in and negotiates a percentage of savings and that's uncapped, I mean, good Lord, the savings percentage that somebody might be making for a service could be more than the actual cost of the service. And it's just, we could go on for an hour about all the different ways brokers get compensated. And again, if you're going to disclose, totally cool. But oftentimes those other non-commission or PEPM broker fees often aren't disclosed to the client.
Yeah. What about trips and bonuses? Are those typically disclosed?
Typically not. And interestingly, here, at least in South Carolina, that was a big thing probably a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was recently changed to where they would give you the value of the trip as a bonus without actually sending you on a trip. Now, that's from the bigger carriers. I know some of the boutique health plans in particular would send you to, a resort or some other Portugal or some exotic location. But again, you think about the downstream effect of that. That's a cool trip. Like,
yeah, I'd like to go to Portugal.
Right? On somebody else's nickel. But you can't tell me that doesn't impact the recommendation a broker would make to a client that maybe perhaps, hopefully it is, but maybe perhaps isn't in the client's best interest. And listen, it's not just limited to brokers. Physicians and drug reps.
Yeah.
Like, there are bonuses and trips and extravagant dinners that physicians are able to tap into from the main drug companies. Like, so let's not focus this solely on brokers. It's pervasive throughout the whole healthcare space.
Yeah. And ultimately, Aunt Susan's paying more for her drug or her hospital experience because a broker got a commission, a drug rep was involved. Like, all of those things, they drive up the cost of care and they hurt that end user.
Yeah. Listen, we were on the one and only trip I ever took. It was to a resort in Florida. And we were going through a particularly hard time with one specific client. And I'm looking around and I said to my wife, I'm never doing this again, because I know, Sally Sue is struggling with something we were servicing. And I'm like, and I'm here. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. Because even if the infinitesimally small potential revenue that we might make off of that, it still accumulates to an extravagant trip. And it just turned me off.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. But again, I do think if you go and you disclose, fine. It's part 100%. Of your compensation.
Yeah. I know of a couple of colleagues in this market who are like, listen, I'm in business to make as much money as I possibly can. And the clients know it. Hey, God bless.
Okay.
If they're willing, and if they're just open about that, totally cool. Go kill it. It's just, listen, there's no nobility in making zero revenue, but it's just not a feeling that I can exist in doing this, especially knowing the downstream impact that it has on actual human beings.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, say I'm a CFO or an HR leader, what do I ask for, maybe in writing, to know what kind of compensation or even conflicts of interest my broker is
Yeah, great
playing with?
question. So it is mandated, and it's incumbent upon the employer to make sure that their broker is disclosing per the CAA.
Can you
But
define CAA?
yeah, good Lord, somebody you caught me in a Brettism. So a Consolidated Appropriations Act, it was a regulation passed in 2021 that promoted a lot of transparency in healthcare. And one of those is brokers have to disclose what all forms of direct and indirect compensation they receive from an employer group. And that's great. Applaud the effort. But I've found in looking at other companies, what's disclosed as compensation isn't exactly everything. What does a CFO do? Man, that's a great one. That's a great question. I mean, you don't want to sit over there and go, is this all the compensation you make? I mean, that doesn't lend itself to a good, productive working relationship with a trusted advisor, hopefully, that you're going to be working with. I just think you have to get a sense. I don't know of any specific questions off the top of my head that I can think of, but just be discerning. For
Mhm.
example, the going rate for a broker fee, especially on a self-funded case or even level funded, what's built in is anywhere from, again, market specific, but I would say anywhere from $25 to $30 per employee per month up
Mhm.
to, God, in extreme cases, 50 or 60. If you see your broker compensation statement disclosure and that broker is making 15 or 18, in all likelihood, they probably aren't making $15 or $18 per employee. There's other revenue streams. So just use your gut and kind of just
Mhm.
common sense, knowing that benchmark. And maybe that's probably the question that we can back into. Well, if you're making 15, 8, what's benchmark compensation on a similar plan for other groups that you have?
Mm.
And if their disclosed compensation is less than that, maybe ask why. How are you are you making up the difference? And if so, how and where?
Yeah. Yeah, because you want your broker to be making enough so that they're incentivized to
Yeah.
do their job.
Absolutely. Just like a physician, nobody's trying to undercut a physician on a direct contract, especially in the
No.
DPC space.
Mhm.
I don't want my physician to be desperate, always worrying about how he or she are going to feed their family. You want everybody to be stable so they're of right mind, similar in the broker space. So nobody's trying to say get, the lowest possible. It's not, I don't want it to be a race to zero, but you
Right.
do want to be ethical and truthful.
Yeah, definitely. And do you find that, so, like, you're a broker, but say you were a broker and you worked with 30 other brokers, and so then you get into other things like block bonuses and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Do you find that stuff tends to get disclosed, or is there any way to
No, I don't
figure
believe it.
that
No,
out?
I can
Okay.
100% tell you that it does not, because even though it's indirect compensation,
Mm.
how do you even figure that out? I'm going to
Yeah.
go and be on the broker side. Like, you don't know what that is until the end of a year. A lot of what are called overrides or incentive bonuses are based on retention.
Yeah.
So if you renew with a carrier, whatever it is, 98%, you don't know what that is. And what do you need to go back and say, oh, by the way, we got an additional kicker because we retained 98%? I think that's where the
Right.
industry is going to industry, right? They're always going to find a way to work out arrangements that, I'm going to stop short of saying hidden, but that are,
Yeah.
nice sweeteners that, somebody doesn't really have to worry about and stress over on what they're going to report back to their employer client on how much they're making.
Right. Yeah. And that's a really good point, Tom, in defense of brokers, that
Yeah,
what you guys get from carriers isn't crystal clear. It is not easy to go, oh,
right.
this was a bonus. This was a commission on this group. This was for this individual. It's about like rating a hospital bill.
Exactly, exactly. And I think the spirit of what we're talking about, I think everybody kind of knows, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And not to name, like, everybody kind of knows what we're talking about. It's the gross stuff.
Yep. Per script bonus. That is
Like,
gross.
dude, how do you even do that? Like, the sicker somebody is, the more money I'm going to make. Just, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. What about, what are the black boxes in health plans? And is there any way to pry those open and see inside them? You mentioned
You,
pharmacy.
Yeah, even on the self-funded side where everything is open and transparent, on the most advanced value-based, uncoupled, rebundled plans, there are certainly black boxes. Now, I will say, with the advent of AI and the large language model analysis tools, there's fewer and fewer excuses to have those black boxes.
Nice.
Like de-identifying things and uploading it to an AI tool can certainly help you in discerning what's in those contracts. But again, the biggest thing that I go back to is the percent of savings. Now, it's so ubiquitous and acceptable in our industry that it's like easy to go, oh, it's just a percent of savings. And the problem you have with it is you don't know what it is until something egregious happens where, again, the percent of savings fee is higher than the actual cost of the service that's being provided. So those are probably the biggest things that I would look at as a major black box, something that you can't linearly discern when looking over an agreement on how much something is going to cost, what a fee is going to be, what the outcome is going to be. And there's certainly a lot of that in a lot of these contract arrangements.
Right. And just for anybody that doesn't know what Tom's talking about in the percent of savings, so maybe there's a surgery that's quoted at $100,000 and I come in and negotiate it down to $15,000. Now you've got to give me a percent of savings of
Yep.
$85,000 for
Yep.
something that was maybe only worth $15,000. So the numbers they're fake.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the contract, it might say something like 10, 27, 25% of savings. Okay. And you assume, okay, how much can the savings be? Well, I think that's part of the contract is maybe they want to maximize that savings and what they do, and who's determining what the baseline that the percentage of savings is going to be billed off of. So
Right.
you obviously know, but everybody who's listening, the concept of what's billed at a hospital system is totally bogus and BS. It's a made up fictitious number that nobody ever pays. So one of
Nobody.
the first questions you need to ask if you're faced with a percentage of savings arrangement is, well, number one, is there a cap on the percentage of savings? And number two, what's the benchmark by which the percentage of savings is calculated off of? Because if it's the bill charge, like you're going to pay a lot of percentage savings because that bill charge is artificially inflated.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing off bill charges ever.
And nobody pays it. And everybody knows nobody pays it, yet the industry continues to calculate things based off of bill charges.
Yes. And again, in hospitals' defenses, sometimes they do get paid a percent of bill charges. So then they're forced to increase those bill charges. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yep.
just a bad system.
It's like if you were an Olympic athlete, you have what I forget what it's called, the blood doping police
Yes.
and the athletes. And the athletes are always trying to outdo the
Yes.
blood doping police, and the are always trying to invent new tests to catch them. And it's always that back and forth cat and mouse. And who's in the middle? Mr. and Miss Employer, you're paying the premium.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep.
Okay. So, Tom, say I'm an employer. I like my broker, but I'm worried that I'm not getting the full story. How do I respectfully get a second opinion? And what are any red flags that I would know, oh, I need to get somebody else to take a look at this?
You have to work with a broker who's looking at it from your same perspective.
Mm.
If a broker is coming to you and selling you something, like blatantly selling you something, I've got the best thing for you. Don't you know this is the greatest thing? That's probably something I would go and get a second opinion on. I mean, everybody knows it's no different than if somebody was, shopping their work comp or their business insurance, or if they were shopping for a piece of capital equipment. Like we all kind of know more feel, more art than science. Of course, we talked about how, in the compensation disclosure world, if it seems kind of artificially low, just maybe probe. But anybody that can fog a mirror can be a broker. I mean, you can get a 70 on a state licensing exam, and congratulations, you're a health insurance broker. But I would say we've had our most success, and I know this echoes with a lot of our similar colleagues. If somebody who comes in and just tells you the truth and doesn't sit behind promoting a particular carrier as a brand.
That's a good point.
Right? Like we all kind of know how to solve this. It's like I said, willing seller on the healthcare side, willing buyer as a patient, and how do you pay the bill as
Yeah.
an employer? So then everything else is just fluff. Like how do you fill in the gaps and make sure that nobody's getting ripped off, particularly you or your employee? And if a particular broker is antagonistic to certain things like DPC, maybe that's probably a red flag, because I guarantee you if they're antagonistic in business, probably on the flip side, they themselves are probably using DPC. Or, everybody knocks to cost shares. There are certainly flaws in those things, but a lot of the brokers that I see don't have insurance themselves. So
Yeah. There's a
question number
place
one,
for them.
what do you do for yourself? Do you have DPC? Are you in an insurance plan? What do you have? Like just probe and see what they're doing personally.
Mhm.
And if they're probably not advocating for what they're doing themselves personally to you, probably a red flag. Maybe you want to get a second opinion.
Yeah. Are there certain data points that you should ask for, or pieces of data rather?
That's a great question. If we're going to be technical about it, I would ask for renewal retention statistics. How many of your groups
Ooh.
do you keep? Because anybody can sell a rate
Mhm.
10% better than what you currently have. What does it look like in 12 months?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's an indication on whether people like you. Now, one thing I've fought against is like, man, this is so subjective, like in picking a broker.
It
I
is.
had one client who told me, man, I'm going with this broker because they just seem so sweet. I remember thinking at the time, is that what we're like? Is that our industry? Like it should be, we're performing this way and here's the outcome. Here's what we're able to do. And then I started reflecting on it. And, honestly, that's just human nature.
Mm.
So you can be sweet and like somebody personally. So when you go to renew, if that's a value, like if you're just a jerk and nobody likes you, you're not going to renew a lot of your groups.
Right.
So probably the biggest question is, what's your retention rate? Because
Mhm.
that proves that, you're likable and can be responsive service wise. And the plans that you're putting in are sustainable over the long term.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear Brett talk about that a lot on the sustainability that, somebody new's coming into the market, they're undercutting rates. We could totally put you on this year to save money, but they're going to raise them next year. So is that disruption worth it to your employees? And I feel like somebody that's just in it for the sale isn't going to have that conversation because they just
Mhm.
want to get the sale.
100%. And again, it's an indictment on the industry that focuses on, hey, we're going to pay you, especially at the big brokerage houses, we're going to pay you on the new sale only. And we run in the same circles who I know there are schools of thought. Of course, you want to emphasize that, but you do want to make sure that's sustainable.
Yeah,
So the compensation model does need to have some at least short-term component of, you know, retention.
yeah,
Me personally running a brokerage here, I know you guys do as well. Like I don't want to be branded as, hey, we're going to come in, write you for 1 year and then lose you.
yeah,
And you're buying, again, like we talked about, the personality, at least the salesperson. So obviously we all want salespeople to do that role that it's named, being in new business sales.
sure.
But you don't want to sell something and never be seen again, which I know is a large business model for a lot of our competitors. Is you never see that salesperson again. You're passed off to some distant service office and it's up to them to renew.
Hmm.
It's just a inhumane way to approach it from a human relations standpoint, at least to me.
Yeah, well, we want to buy from people and we want to be able to contact that person when something goes wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I
100%.
know I drive salespeople nuts because if you sell me payroll or a piece of software and if I have a problem, I'm calling the salesperson.
Exactly. Exactly right. And you want that salesperson to be engaged. There's nothing bigger of a turnoff than a salesperson who's like, oh, Basha, you're old news. I'm on to the next sale, right?
Yep.
Oh, Gosh, that's what gives our industry such a bad rap.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, Tom, this has been so much good information. Any last thoughts or final things that you would say on what your broker
Yeah.
isn't telling you?
Well, just remember, it's not what your broker is showing you that'll hurt you. It's what your broker is not showing you that'll hurt you. And maybe ask that, what are you not showing me that is out there?
That's a good one. That's
Right?
such a good conversation opener too. Even if there's something they want to show you, but they don't think you're going to like it, like you almost take that vulnerability and give them permission to think outside the box if you ask that. I know our show is about hiding shady stuff, but the
Brett and
psychology
I
part of
just
me.
Brett and I are working on a group collaboratively together, and we just lean into it. I'm going to show you something that
Mm,
you might not like, but we are going to push you. Do I have your permission to push you on something? And they said
yeah.
yes. They said yes, right? So maybe this is a message to all the brokers out here. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable and say, I've got something
Yeah.
for you that I'm kind of hesitant to show you. I don't know how you're going to think of it, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. But you can prompt that as an employer by saying, what's out there that you aren't showing me?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay, that's
Yeah.
gonna be a whole nother show.
Well, I'd be happy to come back. This has been fun.
Well, Tom, thanks for your time. Thanks for your passion, and thanks for actually caring about doing what's right by employers and by those end consumers, their employees. It's always appreciated and such a refreshing thing to have in the industry.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
That's a wrap on what your broker isn't telling you. Huge thanks to Tom DeLiegro for pulling back the curtain. If you're making benefits decisions, hopefully you have better questions to ask now. If today's conversation sparked questions or you want a respectful second opinion, reach out. Thanks for listening to the Generous Benefits Podcast. I'm Amanda Brummitt. See you next time.